Getting lean doesn't need to be hard. In fact, it can be really easy given that you use the proper methods. A lot of people have this belief that getting to a low body fat percentage is something pretty difficult to achieve. But as someone who wasn't always lean and now stays lean year round, I can tell you that it really doesn't have to be. If you use the right set of methods and the right systems, losing body fat is genuinely not difficult, and this is not even difficult to prove. If you look around enough, you'll be able to find hundreds of thousands of examples of people who didn't start off with a good physique, who weren't born very lean, who weren't lucky, but that still managed to get there and stay there as well. So in a nutshell, what I want to explain to you in this video is how getting lean can be made easy by solving the biggest problem that people face during a cut, which is hunger. I'm fully aware that there's many different aspects, methods, and systems we can implement to make getting lean easier, but just for this video, I specifically want to focus my attention on methods to help you manage your hunger, okay? So you won't hear me speak about how to manage cravings, how to plan your diet, or how to do any of these things. I'll speak about these things later, but in this video, we're only focusing on managing hunger. So when it comes to hunger management, there's two sets of methods we can really use. We have methods designed to make ourselves feel as full as possible anytime we consume a meal, and we have methods to reduce our appetite in between meals whenever we can't consume anything. All of the following methods we'll be covering will either come from the first or second category, and if you apply those properly, I'm telling you, your hunger will be much less of an issue whenever you're cutting down. So the first set of methods we can use are methods designed to make ourselves feel fuller every time we consume a meal. If we want our hunger levels to stay down as much as we can, we need to first find ways to make ourselves feel as full as possible whenever we consume something. So here's a breakdown of every single method you can use. Firstly, what you can do to make meals more filling is consume more protein within them. So protein, out of all the macronutrients, is the most filling. So whenever you consume more protein within a meal, you'll automatically feel more full afterwards. Now, part of the reason why this is the case and why protein is more filling than carbs or fats is because of something called the protein leverage hypothesis. So this was a theory developed by Steven Simpson and David Raubenheimer in the 1980s, which essentially suggests that our bodies have a strong need for protein and we will keep craving food until our body gets enough of it. So your body needs protein and nutrients to maintain itself, and by default, your body wants to maintain itself. So it's going to keep making you hungry until you get enough protein and nutrients in. Okay, so whenever your diet is too low in protein, your body will purposefully make you more hungry, so you're incentivized to eat more and therefore hit those dietary needs. You could have the exact same meals with the same quantity and same calories, but if the protein and nutrient content is much higher in meal 1 than it is in meal 2, you will feel hungrier after eating the second meal than after eating the first meal. That is essentially why protein is more filling than carbs and fats. Now, there's two ways we can use this to our advantage. First is by making sure we have enough protein every day to begin with. You want to make sure you don't have any deficiencies whatsoever. Second, what you can do is replace some of the carbs and fats you consume with protein to keep your calories the same while increasing your protein intake. By doing this, you're making sure that your meals become more filling without increasing the caloric content of them. So firstly, if you want to make your meals more filling, increase the amount of protein you consume. Now, secondly, what you can do is increase the amount of fiber you consume. So fiber is essentially a non-digestible carb that we can find back in vegetables, fruits, and so on. And the reason it can be helpful with appetite is because it affects it on different levels. It's going to slow down digestion, add more volume to your meals, reduce your appetite, all the while not adding a single calorie to your meals. So fiber, because of a few different reasons, is something really effective to implement in your diet. And as I said, it can be done by increasing your fruit, vegetable, nut intake, and so on. Now third, this is something that is kind of an extension of the first point, which is to consume more nutrient-dense foods. So as I said, your body needs nutrients to maintain itself, and it will keep you hungry until you consume enough food to hit necessary targets for maintenance. So whenever you lack certain vitamins or minerals, you will tend to feel more hungry than someone who consumes enough of these things. So this is pretty much the same mechanism as with protein, but this time with vitamins and minerals. Now, the primary way you can get more nutrients is to consume more nutrient-dense foods. Think about steak, eggs, fruits, fish, and so on. Now, could you consume vitamins and minerals through supplements? Technically, yes, but not really. One of the important things about nutrients is that it's not just nutrients that matter, but your ability to absorb them, and consuming them through pills is generally less well absorbed than through foods. So in order to consume more nutrients, preferably do it through actual food, but if you can't, you can take a supplement because some nutrients are still better than no nutrients. Now fourth, what you can do to make meals more filling is to eat warm foods. The temperature of food might seem like a small detail, but it actually plays a big role in how your body perceives hunger, fullness, and satisfaction. Cold foods tend to suppress your appetite less effectively than warm foods due to a combination of sensory, hormonal, digestive, and psychological factors. For example, warm foods tend to stimulate your senses more deeply. Heating food will release more aromatic compounds, which will enhance both the smell and the flavor of whatever you're eating. This will then cause something known as sensory-specific satiety, which is something where rich sensory experiences, especially from aroma and taste, help your brain register that you've had enough. Another reason is because warm meals are more effective at triggering gut-brain satiety signaling. When you eat warm food, it activates your vagus nerve, which helps your body send signals of fullness from your stomach to your brain. So warm foods will help you regulate your hunger on a few different levels, and they just tend to be nicer to eat, so that's definitely something you can implement. Now, the following method you can use is to eat or stay in warm environments. So you've probably noticed this, but during the summer, your hunger tends to be a lot lower, and there's a few reasons for this. For example, whenever it's warm outside, your body will prioritize cooling your body down instead of caring about digestion, which often makes you less hungry. Another reason is because whenever you sweat, you tend to be more thirsty, and the act of drinking water reduces your hunger. So there's other reasons for why warm environments tend to make you less hungry, but you don't need to know all of these. It's common sense that warm environments typically make you less hungry, so we can use that method by either staying in warm countries, which won't be accessible for a lot of people, or staying in warm buildings, wearing warm clothing, and so on, whatever you can find to keep your core temperature warm. Then sixth, what you can implement is simply the act of eating your food slowly. So what you need to understand is that your body needs some time to realize that it's receiving food, and it typically takes between 15 to 20 minutes for your stomach to stretch, digestive hormones to activate, and signals of satiety to reach your brain via the vagus nerve and hormonal messengers. So essentially, whenever you eat food at a slower pace, you allow your body time to feel fuller even if you have less food in your system. So if you're the kind of person that wants to get lean to look better facially, a cue that I really like is to chew on every single bite you take 20 to 30 times before swallowing it. So biting on food until it's completely liquefied in your mouth. Not only will that allow you to eat your meals at a much slower pace and make you more present during meals, but it will also allow you to widen your jaw and develop your maxilla and other facial features forward. And if you don't know what that means, chewing basically develops your face to be more attractive. That's all you need to know. So try eating your meals at a slower pace and chew on every single bite you take. Not only will it allow you to feel more full while having less food in your stomach, but it will also help you develop your facial structure properly. Now, the following and final method we can utilize is eating at very specific times throughout the day. This could, for example, mean eating specifically at 8 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m., for example, specifically at those times. Now, to understand why that works, we need to understand how your body works overall. So you need to understand that your body runs on internal clocks or circadian rhythms that regulate your hormones, digestion, and even hunger. It's the exact same mechanism that regulates your sleep cycle. If your biological clock is used to going to bed at 10 p.m., it will start to release melatonin to make you feel sleepy around 10 p.m. or even a bit before that, and that same mechanism works with your hunger as well. When you're used to eating at very specific times, your body will start to release ghrelin at those times of the day. So when you're eating at very specific times through the day, not only are you creating a habit out of it, you're also training your body to expect food at those very specific times and not at others. So let's say you're eating at 8 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6 p.m. every day. Your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, will begin to rise predictably just before those times, which will naturally make you hungrier around those times, even if you didn't feel hungry before. So the way you can implement this is by starting to have very specific and also less frequent eating times, so your body starts to get used to those less frequent eating times every day, and that way you can decrease the amount of time you feel hungry throughout the day. I hope that kind of makes sense. Right, so by eating less frequently, you will feel hungry at fewer times throughout the day, which will definitely help you manage your hunger. So this is pretty much all of the methods I can give you so far, and to be fair, that's all you really need to keep your hunger levels down. Consume more protein, consume more fiber, consume more nutrients, eat warm foods, eat in warm environments if possible, eat at a slower pace, and eat at very specific times throughout the day. Now, secondly, what we can do to manage our levels of hunger is utilize methods to reduce our appetite in between meals whenever we don't have access to food. So you will obviously have times throughout the day where you'll get hungry in between meals, and in order to not surpass your caloric intake, you need methods to manage that hunger. So again, I'll walk you through a list of methods, smaller than the previous one, which will help you manage your hunger in between meals. So firstly, what we can utilize is any form of stimulant. So this includes caffeine, nicotine, Adderall, or anything else. Now, of course, I'm not condoning the use of nicotine or Adderall, but what we can use is black coffee, pre-workout, or anything else in that category. So stimulants in general will reduce your appetite in a few ways, primarily through directly suppressing ghrelin, activating your sympathetic nervous system or your flight or fight mode, reducing your body's perceived need for food, and they'll generally help you reduce your hunger a lot, depending of course on the dose you consume. So whenever you feel hungry throughout the day, just know that black coffee can help. Also note that it has to be black because it barely contains any calories, and the second you add in milk and sugar, the caloric content shoots up by a lot. So keep it black. You might not like it at first, but your taste buds will get used to it over time. Now, the second method you can use is obviously to drink more water. So this is by far the easiest method you can use to blunt your appetite without adding in any calories, so you always want to keep a bottle of water next to you and drink from it frequently. Now, third and finally, another thing you can do, and this is one that I do very often, is to simply keep yourself busy throughout the day. Do something, work on a project, be out with friends, go to school or work, just do anything. You want to avoid staying at home too often because that's often where you'll start eating more than you're supposed to. A lot of the reason why people eat too much or snack too often is simply because of boredom. So whenever you keep yourself busy and you actually do things with your life, you won't think about food so often. So this is something that I try to do as much as possible because not only does it keep me away from eating too much food, but it also keeps me away from falling into other addictions. Anytime I find myself alone at home, bored with nothing to do, that's when I always end up relapsing on addictions. The Bible also has a quote saying, idle hands are the devil's workshop, which essentially means that whenever you're not doing something, that is when you're most likely to do stupid things. So keep yourself busy. It will not only help you manage your hunger and keep you away from junk food, but it will also keep you away from other addictions you might be suffering from. So again, this is all you need to know to manage your hunger in between meals. Use stimulants, specifically black coffee, obviously drink more water, and keep yourself busy throughout the day and in between meals. So now that we've gone over every single method you could use to manage your hunger and why every single one of those is effective, the final thing you need to do is actually properly implement these things because it's one thing to know what to do, but it's another to actually implement the knowledge. So the way I would approach it is the following. Firstly, you need to make sure that whatever you're consuming contains all of the protein and nutrients that your body needs and contains enough fiber. Then you also want to make sure that the meals you consume are all warm. Then after this, you also want to make sure that you consume meals at a very specific times and you can also consume them in between a very specific time period. So try to implement something like intermittent fasting and always eat your meals at very specific times. Now, once you've done these things, you've essentially implemented a system that allows you to be less hungry without you even having to do anything specific every single day. Once you have your diet, your eating window, and specific eating times, you don't need to think about these things anymore. You can automate them completely. It doesn't require any effort from you anymore from that point. So then, once you've done this and you've set up the basics, you can use other methods like building the habit to eat more slowly, ensuring every single bite you take 20 to 30 times, drinking loads of water through the day, potentially having a black coffee in the morning, and keeping yourself busy throughout the day. So if you implement these methods properly, I can promise you, your hunger will be much less of an issue when you're cutting down. So this is pretty much all I have for this video. Understand that getting lean does not have to be complicated because if you use the right set of methods, you can make your body a lot less hungry overall without having to use any type of drug that companies try to sell you. So thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Act on the things we covered. Peace.